what I've learned from my journey, and open up perhaps for some conversation along the lines of mental health. And I've entitled this too shall pass. This is something my mom said to me a few times throughout my life. And I always thought she was kind of this wise person, but I found out that's actually an expression that goes back to building a mental health practice. When I say the word practice, I'm not talking about like a doctor's practice. I'm talking about, a collection of habits, right? That's really what a practice is. And I think mental health has been, it's coming up, right, in terms of people's awareness of its importance. Everybody's aware of physical health. We have hospitals everywhere, and we have gyms everywhere, and people understand the importance of eating right and things like that. But mental health, I feel like there's still a lot of information that's just kind of, being, it's not out there as well as it could be. I'm going to cover a couple of difficult subjects, or really the subject matter around loss. And if anybody needs to step out at any point, because some of this stuff might be difficult, please just don't even worry about it. It's all good. Because some of the, I know it can be hard sometimes. And so before I jump in, I'd like everybody to kind of just do a little exercise with me, where we're going to close our eyes and we're going to take 3 deep breaths. All right, so go ahead, close your eyes. Okay, and everybody just take a big breath in. And let that go. One more big breath. And let it go. Breathe in the love in the room. And let that go. Okay. So as I mentioned, mental health is thankfully on an upward trajectory in terms of our awareness and our conversation about it. But I think more can be done, and that's really what the goal of this presentation is. I have been through some hard times, and as I'm sure you all have, you realize that even with hard times, there's good things that come from it, right? And there's insights, hopefully, that you gain from going through those challenges. Has anybody lost somebody that means a lot to them in the last year or so? Yeah. My heart's with you, and I want you to kind of reflect on that as we go through this. Going back, this is me as a kid. I know what you're thinking, like I haven't aged a bit, and I appreciate that. That's my older brother Jeff, and my older brother Greg. They're 6 and 9 years older than me. Grew up in Huntington, Long Island. Fast forward now 23 years. This happens to be my wedding day, but I brought it up, the pictures, because the people in it are relevant. This is one of my closest friends when I moved out to San Francisco, Dean. Oh yeah, my brother Jeff, he moved out to San Francisco, and Greg and I followed him, and we just went all the way to the West Coast from New York. That's Greg there. That's me and my brother Jeff. And Jeff, he was the first one to get married and have kids, and that's his wife Barb. And his kids there, Errol and Julia, on that fine September day. If you zip forward another 4 years, there's Greg with his now wife, Vicky, and their firstborn, Lucas. Errol and Julia, you can see them growing up quite a bit, and Jeff and Barb. And there's Chase, my son, my ex-wife there in San Francisco. Life is good. Now we pop ahead another 8 years. The kids are starting to grow. We got 2 more. We got Max, my son, my brother Greg's son, and you see Lucas is all grown up. Earl and Julie are practically adults there, and my sweet little daughter Lexi, and Chase holding Max's head so he's focused on the camera there. This is in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. And this is when a part of my life, I moved down to San Diego, and we were visiting San Francisco, and I moved down here to pursue some entrepreneurial dreams, my first big step into out of the corporate life and into the uncertainty of doing your own thing. And it's challenging, right? And that challenge of facing the headwinds of the Great Recession, if you guys remember, in 2008, and having your own business, and having 2 small kids, and maybe not having the best health practices, both mentally and physically, took a toll. And my marriage was struggling at that time. And my friend Dean, who you saw in the wedding photographs, was one of my groomsmen. He was also struggling with his marriage, and we had gotten together in March of 2015, and he shared that with me. And I said, "Well, man, we're gonna make the best of this. We're gonna get through it." And he said, "Jonathan, I'm not quite as strong as you." The Friday before Thanksgiving, I got a call that Dean had taken his own life. I don't want to get into all the details of how or why, but he just was in a bad place, and he thought that was the solution. He thought that was the way out, and that combined with the fact that in the next few weeks, literally after his passing, in the holiday December 2015, my marriage really ended. That was it. By February, we had an apartment, and all the stuff that goes along with divorce was happening. And for the first time in my life there in 2016, it wasn't going like that. I was really kind of going like that. I got punched a couple times and really just, whoa, this isn't the experience I'd had the previous 35 years or so, or I guess 2015, whatever age I was. I wasn't used to this, right? And it took some time to get back on my feet. Let's just say like a year. And in that year or so where I was just all over the place, I recognized that pleasure seeking and just kind of doing the things I was doing wasn't working. I wasn't feeling any better. And I decided to take a break from drinking. I just went 100 days actually, and it was actually, I remember the first drink I had after, and I wasn't an alcoholic by any way, not, kind of doing what people do, right, when times are tough. But 100 days really clears your head. And I started working out. I was overweight, and I started hitting the gym and paying attention to what a carbohydrate is. Because I really didn't know that eating a bagel every morning was like basically eating a Snickers bar. And I got into surfing, and I formed some deeper friendships with the people around me, and I began to read, and I went on a path that I hadn't really been down. And I started to recognize that even though times were tough, that I can enjoy this journey and I can make the best of it, right? And I spent a lot of time with my kids, and we did really fun, cool things, and I focused on them. And sure enough, I was making lemonade from lemons, and started to get my life back together after a couple of years. 2018, and this too shall pass. And I'm saying this now because even when things are good, people think this too shall pass is when, are you going through a tough time? Well, just, time will heal. But also when things are good, this too shall pass also applies, right? And that's not to say bad times are going to happen, or don't. It means let's be grateful for this time, this moment that we have that's so good, because maybe it's probably it is going to pass. It's going to pass. That's not to be grim. It's not to be you're looking on the dark side. It's just a reality, right? So let's cherish those moments. So in 2018, December of 2018, going into 2019, my nephew Errol, who you guys saw in the previous pictures, Jeff's son, was struggling with his life. He was 22, and he was tragically killed in a crime up in Marin County, and it was awful, absolutely awful. You can see this is his graduation from high school, and he's with the other three boy cousins. My son Chase, there's little Max there who still can't look at a camera, and then Lucas. And it was absolutely awful, right? My brother Greg, at the same time, so not his father, but my other brother, Max and Lucas's father, was going through divorce. And he was trying to make the best of it himself. I remember that December, going to the services and things for Errol, and he was just trying to make the best of it, and seemed to me being very positive. But 35 days after Errol passed, we learned that Greg And it was just, wow, man. Whew. And then his ex-wife to be made a decision within the months following that she pulled back from our family, and she still has. We haven't had contact with Lucas and Max since. So a lot of things, a lot of loss here, right? Including, a divorce and the family unit. And this next stretch was a challenge again for me. And I had to lean into new and deeper techniques to try to heal and figure out a way to make sense of what had happened and the loss that I was experiencing. Obviously, well, if anybody who's lost somebody to suicide, there's always an element of blaming yourself. With my brother, what didn't I see, right?
Yeah.
And how do I make sense of this? And a few things that I embraced in these years. Oh, and I'll put a slide up at the end with some of the links to these things if you're interested. But is anybody familiar with the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle? He's also got a book called The Power of Now. Really incredible concepts in that book. And Oprah Winfrey does a thing where she interviews him for each chapter. And she's got her book club or whatever. This is the book of the books. This is the top one for her. She's read this dozens of times. It's on her nightstand at all times. And it really is an incredible book. It really just opened me up to a lot of things. And that's actually where I saw that this too shall pass. It wasn't my mom's expression, but it actually came back from a long time ago. I wrote a Facebook post about surviving divorce. And I just put it out there because I had gone through divorce, and my friend Dean did, and took his own life, and my brother Greg was, and I was like, there's gotta be, when men are struggling to get through this, what can I do and say to potentially help in some way? So I wrote something, I put it out there, and it felt good. People put all kinds of comments on the post and passed it along, and people called me out of the blue and direct messaged me, and I got on the phone with people I hadn't talked to in a long time, new people I hadn't met, and that felt good to help and to maybe save a life, right? I started to get into meditation in 2021, and that was just, I was at a cocktail party, and a friend of mine, this tough guy, he's actually a boxer, told me he tried this Calm app. I'm like, all right, well, I'll give that a try. And I was always kind of hesitant about meditation. I was like, I didn't have patience for it. Has anybody here tried meditation? Has anybody? Oh, good. That's awesome. Tamara Levitt has got this voice, and she's in the Calm app, and I just was like, okay, I think this is starting to make sense. She's got a way of kind of explaining why we do it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then I also started to go to therapy. For the first time in my life, I was looking at myself and saying, there's things I need to do here. There's behaviors I don't quite understand that I'm doing, and I need to work on that. I need to pull that apart and figure out what's going on. Because when I was growing up, I was focused on education, right? Getting into a good college, getting into a good job, building a family, moving there, getting that job. What am I gonna do? But I never, until this period of my life, turned that focus onto myself and my behaviors and the things that I was seeing, the patterns I was seeing in myself that I wanted to fix. I was getting tired of it. I was getting tired of doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And therapy is the thing that really helped me with that. There was one moment that I'll tell a story about of where a light bulb went off. It was October of 2021. It was before Halloween, and I went into therapy, and I was having a tough time. I had broken up with my love interest at the time. I had challenges with work. One of the women who worked for my business partner and I quit, and she was very specific in saying, I'm quitting because of you two. You know, yeah. I mean, it was hard, and then things were difficult at home with challenges with my son, and I was stressed, and I was feeling so down. I couldn't see myself out of this hole. And I went into therapy, and I said, there's, you know. And by the way, I'm not suicidal at all. I was just down. And then a week later, literally 1 week later, walking into therapy, I was like, man, things are good. Like the weekend before, I'd gone out for Halloween, had a good time, and my friends, and then some good stuff happened with work. You know, had a couple new customers or something. I go into therapy, and I go, you know, I don't even know where I was last week. I don't know who that person was, but we're good. Like, let's talk about stuff. Like, she's like, whoa. Oh, Jonathan, do you see how you are pushed around by these things that are happening outside of you, and your self-worth is affected by the stuff that's happening around you? And I was like, oh my gosh. And that's when I really understood the concept of sense of self. And right in that moment, in the therapy session, I came up with this analogy of when you don't have that strong sense of self, and I'll talk about what that really means in a second. It's like a sapling. It's like a weak little tree that just gets blown around and eventually snapped by the strong winds. And when you have a strong sense of self, a self-love, an appreciation for you, the best parts of you, and a grace and acceptance of the things you're working on, and being kind to yourself about any gaps you might have, and not seeing yourself necessarily as flawed or having this. I had this image. I realized I had an image of myself with an apple that had like a rotten part, and I think I'm not gonna get into all the details of that. Rebecca Chapel and all this stuff. Bottom line is, it was a big moment for me because I recognized I was getting pushed around by the things that were happening outside. If you read the 4 agreements, there's the agreement says don't take it personally. All these things kind of come together, and all of a sudden you have that moment where you figure some stuff out. And then through the course of meditation and in therapy, I can't remember where I got this analogy, but just to put the benefits of meditation into a nutshell, it's about seeing your thoughts and having awareness and creating, and meditation is that exercise. You go to the gym, you lift weights, you get on the treadmill, whatever it is. With meditation is that practice of seeing your thoughts, right? And the analogy I have is if you don't have that awareness, it's like you're standing in the waterfall and the water's just coming down all around you, and the water is your thoughts, right? And because it's hitting you, it's hard to breathe, it's hard to see, and it's just, you can't see the water itself because it's and then if you step back, right, and that little shelf that's behind the waterfall, okay, I can now see it, it's flying by, but at least I can breathe a little bit, and it's kind of peaceful back here. And then if you step over to the side of the riverbank, you can see the waterfall, and you can see the water going by. And that's the same with meditation practice. As you get better, you can start to see these thoughts and feelings that you're having and create some separation. And that separation is the vital part, and that's what you're practicing when you're meditating, is creating an awareness of your own thinking. And it's very powerful, and it can it brought to me a peace of mind. Especially first thing in the morning. I got in the habit of meditating in the morning, and every meditation usually finishes with, how are you feeling? And there was days when I realized, man, I'm actually kind of waking up first thing in the morning before I even put my feet on the ground, and I'm kind of bothered by something that happened yesterday. But now I recognize that, and that's really important. And it's really important for your mental health. All right, back to the story. Forgiveness. So this is my ex-wife at Thanksgiving in 2020. She's got her new baby there, and her partner. This is my son Chase and Lexi. This is an example of how you can move on from the difficult stuff that happens in divorce, right? A year later, in 2021, this too shall pass. This is a good, things are good. We got my son, my daughter up in Marin for Thanksgiving at my brother Jeff's house, and there's Julia and some other family members, and of course the token dog with the hood of shame around her. And it was really awesome. Life felt really good. Well, if you remember, 2021 is pretty much in the thick of the pandemic, kind of coming out of things a little bit, but my son Chase, he was in 7th grade when the lockdown happened, and he had his own challenges with mental health, and we lost him the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. He took his own life. He was 14, and man, whew, it's still hard. Jim and I unfortunately share this bond.
Yes, we do.
And for any of you else who lost a child to suicide or lost a child at all, it is, well, it sucks. So, I'll share this quote. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And this one, it took a bit, and of course you're still on that spectrum, you're still on that arc. Of course there's blame. It was my fault, or look at my life, I'm cursed. I wish that if I had just done this, if that day before, if this had happened, if we had just done that. And the term, this does not serve me, these thoughts do not serve me, really was important, and still is, for me to recognize that I can't go down that road with these kinds of things. And that's where meditation and the practice of meditation really came in handy. More than just came in handy, it was vital. Because I had the mental strength to start to see those thoughts and have a stop sign that says, I can't go down that road because it doesn't serve me. And it's not easy to get there. It takes time. It's a practice. It's a habit. So that awareness after trauma, is vital. So step one is that you recognize that you're in the shit. And I don't, pardon my language, but I don't have a better way to explain it.
Great way to say it.
You're in it, you gotta be aware you're in it. Because a lot of people you maybe have witnessed yourself, they don't even realize they're in it. And that awareness is vital because this too shall pass, right? But in order for it to pass, you have to take action. This is my belief, by the way. And that takes a desire to be in a better place. And people that are truly, truly depressed, in some of those folks, I see that they don't have that desire. And that's a challenge, right? So the first thing is decide that you want to be somewhere else. And then desire is great, but to actually create results, you need action, and to do action, you need discipline. And discipline's a big, hard, challenging, scary word, right? But it is the way you get to where you want to go, right? So in these years that have passed, since I lost Chase, we lost Chase, I just continue to do what I know will work, right? Build on the daily practices of getting sleep. Sleep is the foundational element to it all, right? If you're not sleeping, you gotta go back to square one and figure out a way to get good sleep. And exercise helps with that. You exercise, you sleep better. Moderating alcohol and drugs and all the other things, that's important. It's not gonna help. All it's gonna do is push and hide and delay whatever it is you need to deal with. Having a community of friends and people, whether that's here, you guys have an amazing community here, or AFSP, or with your kids' school and parents, or whatever it is, find that community, you need it. They will be there for you, but you have to put yourself out there a little bit. And gratitude, I'll talk about gratitude, I've talked about it, but yeah, I'll get to gratitude in a minute, and you guys all, I'm sure, recognize the importance of gratitude. And then I mentioned meditation. I've continued to reach, and this is where at this phase, I started to really recognize the power of service. I read a book called Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, and that one, it really drives home the point of service as a way to heal. Right after Chase passed away, we set up an initiative to create this beautiful bench in Carmel Valley. It's called Chase's Brunch. These are a bunch of his friends that helped with it. And we brought together the community in an effort to build this incredible bench, this amazing spot, which I'll encourage you to go visit. There's a website, and actually at the bench itself, there's a little memorial plaque, and then there's a QR code where people can leave a visitor's log, and it's just a beautiful thing. Some of the things people have written, strangers and people that have Chase in our family. So to kind of bring it all together, it's a circular. These things feed upon themselves, right? Sleeping, eating healthy, moderation, exercising, getting outside, having that community, service, gratitude. So gratitude, a lot of people say, all right, well, let me just list 3 things I should be grateful for, or I'm grateful for. And that's good, that's a good habit. Absolutely. Beyond that, it's finding those moments and having a lens at which you look at life where you can find gratitude in the light that is coming across this room and on the back of Jen's head, and that beautiful picture that I have in my head right now. Or I have this fuzzy mat that I got at Costco, and I put it next to my bed because when I put my feet on the ground, first thing in the morning, I feel this like incredibly soft mat. And it gives me a reminder of those little things in life that are just those little pleasures, right? That trigger a whole other feeling of gratitude, and that can be found in music. And actually, Jim, you mentioned in your talk pets, which I hadn't really kind of added that into the mix, but yesterday I was a little down on a couple things, and I came home. There's nobody in the house except for our 3 crazy dogs, and I thought of Jim. I thought of your story about the dogs waiting, like as if you're the Messiah coming home. Yeah. And I got them out of their thing. I had them climb all over me and their stinky breath, and I had gratitude in that moment, and I felt better than I did when I walked in the house. And so these habits that I'm talking about, I talked to you about some hard losses and stuff, but they help with the less traumatic challenges and the daily bumps in the road. And that's where this idea of mental health as a practice, just like all the other good habits you have in your life, is something that I really think we can educate our kids on and continue to build. It's not like you ever get to a point where you're like, I'm good, I'm done. And that's what our practice is. We're continuing to refine and get better. And so, in the wake of the loss of my son, I have to be grateful that this too shall pass. And of course, he's always in my heart and every single day. But with the journey, I found this wonderful love that has been an absolute blessing, and life is good again. Yeah. And this is a picture from a few weeks ago. Jen's daughter Cassidy, over there is her birthday, and Jen's mom, Jeff and Barb and Julia were over, my daughter, my good friend Charlie. We're all together, and there's light, and we keep moving forward. And really that's the the message here is keep moving forward. So I hope that nobody here experiences losses or trauma or difficult times. I really do. But we all know that that's probably not reality, right? Things are going to happen. Challenges are going to happen. So by practicing mental health daily, we're not only healthier and happier now, we're better prepared for when those inevitable difficult times come. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions or any comments?
It's all good. Thank you.
I think the one thing I say all the time, and Jen and I were talking about it back there, not that we weren't listening much, yes we were, but I tell myself all the time, grief is the price you pay for love. If you don't love something, then grief doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when I have a day when I'm down, and I'm sure you do the same thing, I go, it's because there's a lot of love there, and that's,